Hi, everyone. This is Steve Delisano, and welcome to this week's edition of CEOs You Should Know. I am thrilled to be joined by Gary Angiuli, the managing and founding partner of Angiuli and Gentile, and his partner, Stefanie DeMario. So thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited to jump in today and to learn more about your background and also learn more about the firm. So why don't we kick it off with you, Gary? I know that you started practicing law in New York in 1984, later with the U.S. Supreme Court in 1988. Looking back at the last 40 years of practice, what initially inspired you to pursue law to begin with?
It was just a bad decision from the beginning, David. So it was interesting. You know, my personal background came from a place where I needed to do something for myself. I came from an entrepreneurial family, and I never just wanted to be the son of the entrepreneur. So I decided that I needed to create my own business model, and from day one decided I wanted to build a meaningful and substantial law firm in Staten Island.
That's awesome. And after all those years, how do you continue every single day to still be motivated?
Well, that's a great question. I think the answer to that comes down to if you really don't care about people, because what we do in our law firm, I always refer to it as middle-class law or upper-middle-class law. And the people we deal with are dealing with everyday real-life stuff, right? They need a will. They've had a death in the family.
Mm-hmm.
They need Medicaid planning. They need a divorce. They're buying a home. They're buying a business. And I think for me personally, it really starts because my background, as I said, was from an entrepreneurial family. For me, I like people.
Yeah.
And I think if you like people, you know, sometimes Stephanie will be talking to someone in the conference room, and I'll just come in just to say hi and just to meet them, to see what do they do for a living? Does their kid play basketball? Whatever it might be. I think it really stems from actually liking people. If you don't like people, then you need to be in a law firm where you're just doing sort of, mortgage closings or something. And, you start at 9 and you end at 5.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But the type of law Stephanie and I practice is very community interactive, and we like people.
Love that.
And I think I could say that about my partner, Angiuli Gentile, my other partner, Aaron Colgan. They really, the four of us, go out of our way to really connect with people. Doing documents is only a small portion of the law. If you're not willing to listen to people and talk to them and go that extra step and keep talking till all of a sudden you hear something and go, you have a special needs child. I know that now, or whatever it might be. The things that we don't know if we don't probe.
Yeah.
So I think you have to like people. I think you have to be inherently empathetic to the fact that nobody's life is a straight line. You have to gently prod out of them the things that they may not want to say because they have a difficult marriage or they have a problem child or whatever it might be, or they're having financial problems and they're buying a house and they don't want to tell you that they're not making the income that they technically need in their mind to qualify for the house. So if you can really connect with them, I think that's the key.
That makes the world a difference too. And I'm sure that really shows through that you care as you're meeting your different clients and working with each of them.
I think authenticity matters.
100%.
And you do have to care. Pretending you care, which I think a lot of businesses pretend to care.
Yep.
I can say I have very empathetic partners. There's so many times that Stephanie would say to me, for example, I was at 11 o'clock last night. I was thinking about this. Am I overthinking it? I'm like, no, it's because you really care.
Yeah.
And just the way you want to have a successful podcast, we're not excited when we get a retainer in. We're excited when somebody writes a positive review because we feel like we might have made a difference in someone's life.
I love that.
So that's really the truth.
I love that, Gary.
People talk that talk, but we live it. We do our best to live it.
That's awesome.
Can't please everyone, but we try really hard. And it's a thankless profession because it's not like television, right? If somebody's getting a divorce, it doesn't, you watch something on television and it starts and it ends within an hour, but technically, 48 minutes or something when you add the commercials in. Real life goes on for years, and people are paying hard-earned money for bills, and they think the lawyers are dragging it out, and all the things the perceptions that people have.
Yeah.
So it's not only about caring, but it's about people believing in you, believing you're authentic, being authentic. So I think that's the key to the whole thing.
It's a great mindset. Stefanie, I know you also have a very impressive background, earning your JD at the New York Law School and serving as the president of the Moot Court Association at St. John's University. How did those early years really shape your leadership style into the attorney you are today?
So I've always wanted to practice law, as boring as that may sound. And I
don't
knew.
think that's boring.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I was pre-law in St. John's, and I wanted to help my peers by giving us real life, real world experience. And the moot court allowed us to do that because you were given questions and a fact pattern, and you were given an opportunity to present your matter and get feedback. And when you're in that safe space of a school, that really, really helped in preparing at least me, I can say, for myself in going out into the real world.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
I love that background too. And I'm not going to hold it against you. They're in St. John's. I went to UConn, so there's a lot of little basketball rivalry. But I appreciate that perspective. And I think that's great that you knew right from the start what you wanted to accomplish and all the accomplishments
Did
you
you
made
have
since then.
dartboards of Lou Carnesecca?
All good. Gary, one of the things I love that I looked up was that your firm's philosophy is the time to get the map is before you enter the woods. How does that mindset influence the way that you guide your clients through some of the more complex transactions that they have to take place throughout their lives?
So we've been in business since 1985, and that has allowed us the benefit of seeing countless matters in countless areas of law. I don't think you can say that, right? Look at the map before you go into the woods, unless you have seen things go from beginning to end.
Sure.
And sometimes they take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 months, whatever it might be. Maybe it's a simple real estate deal that went awry because there was an illegal deck or an illegal pool. So the mindset of saying you have to have a blueprint, you can't have a blueprint unless you've ever seen a building.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen many buildings, and many buildings that were not built properly. So for us, I think because of the amount of time that we have been in business, we have seen so many fact patterns and seen so many personalities and dealt with so many psychological profiles, and understand that when someone comes in and says they have a custody battle or they're in a divorce matter or whatever it might be, how we need to really explain to them, because their perception of what is going to happen comes from television. It is not from real life. They cannot understand why there's 4 months between somebody filing a motion and getting an answer from a judge of what the answer to that motion is. And they wrote a check for X dollars to do that. To them, it's simple. It's like, well, of course I would get this. Well, this seems logical. But there wouldn't be there's an old saying, a small town can't support a lawyer, but it can support 2 lawyers, right? So there wouldn't be judges if there weren't disputes and if there weren't interpretations of the law. So we've seen things that seem like a slam dunk that we go, we just can't believe that we didn't win this. Like, we just can't believe it. And things that we, say, this is amazing. Like, we went into this thing thinking there was no chance. So when we talk about the roadmap or blueprint for the future or going into the woods, every person is, I'm using the example of divorce, but Stephanie does a lot in estate planning, elder law, and she could tell you some stories about those things. But if you're going into something, you need to understand it might very well be a painful process, but we try and communicate to people is that we have done this before. It is going to be difficult, but it is finite. And whether it takes 6 months or 3 years might depend on you and your spouse. I love this one. People always say, the lawyers charge us so much money. And I'm like, well, okay. So you came in day one, and in 3 years, right before trial, you settled on a settlement agreement for whatever the matter is.
Sure.
All you really needed to do was day one,
have that settlement.
Agree on that with your spouse or the person in commercial litigation with you. And then your legal bill would have been, this big. But human beings being what they are and emotion getting into it, I think the roadmap that we're referring to most is we've seen a lot of psychological profiles. And that is the key to real advice going forward.
Absolutely.
To really knowing that when you get into the woods, there is going to be a fork in the road. You can go left or you can go right, but it's not ever going to be a straight path through. And because we understand that, I think we can try and help prepare people for what's happening, and also to make them know that when we get to the end of this, they're going to get a better life. They are going to get the life they deserve. They're going to get a rebirth. They're going to get a chance at a better life.
Yeah. And you guys have seen that firsthand through tons of experience, and you could be the ones that help them through those woods. Stephanie, I loved before we jumped on the podcast, obviously something that you both talked about, and the entire firm does, is how much you care about your clientele. And I think it's even come through so far in our conversation. And as Gary mentioned, I know you work on estate planning and special need plannings. How do you ensure that the clients feel so supported throughout making those really important, pivotal decisions and emotional decisions in their lives?
I hear them and I involve them.
Mm-hmm.
And I will share with clients numerous times a week, no two plans are going to be the same. So we start with a conversation. Just talk to me. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what your goals are. Tell me about your family. Tell me about that in-law that you may not like. Tell me everything. Let me understand it. And then once I gather that, I'll ask, do I have it? I got it all? Is there anything else? And then we can put together a plan. And I tell them we're doing this now so that we don't have to reconfront it, hopefully, in the future. And that they have a home to come back to ask questions. We have clients that we hope are for life.
Mm-hmm.
And we instill that in our estate planning clients. I tell people, you can call me every day. You can ask me questions every day. I'm not going anywhere. I may have to call you back, but I will. And that's okay, because people need to feel comfortable when they've placed their entire lives into your hands to now meld and make sure that they have a transition into their older years where they are protected in addition to their children and grandchildren.
Yep. And staying on that topic, from your experience, what are some of the biggest mistakes you notice family making throughout the process? And how can they better educate themselves not to make those?
I would say waiting a little too long. We call that crisis planning sometimes. Yeah. And listen, we can do it.
Yep.
But it may not be exactly the same as we would have if we had a little bit more time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the word planning comes in. It has to be a plan, or it should be a plan. So many times I'll meet with children of clients and they'll say, if I can just have gotten my parents here a few years ago. And I say, don't worry about that. Hindsight's 20/20.
Yep.
We're going to do it now.
Yeah.
But have you thought about yours? Because that would be a good thing. So I would say waiting too long is usually the biggest pitfall.
That makes a ton of sense. So everybody tuning in, make sure you get that planning done early.
Give us
Gary,
a call.
We talked about your very impressive background and the experience you have. When you look at the industry of today, how do you see it evolve, and how do you see AI being part of that evolution?
So there's no question that AI is going to have a dramatic impact on how law is practiced.
Sure.
The mistake people make is thinking that AI is a lawyer, because AI is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to draft a document with AI, but what AI only responds to two things, right? The way you feather the question in, which from our breadth of experience, Stephanie will sit with somebody and she'll talk to them, and in between asking them about their kids' schooling or basketball game, so at some point when they get comfortable, they might say, I have one adult child who has a gambling problem or something. Now, people may not necessarily know to integrate that into their question in AI.
Yep.
B, AI does have many inaccuracies and it hallucinates sometimes.
Yep.
But I think it comes down to the difference between what I refer to, you see the attorneys and counsels at law. What we do, what we bring to the table, we are not draftspeople, right? We are draftspeople, but with the advent of AI, you can draft documents easier. But that is not the same as being a counselor at law.
Totally.
Right? And to be a counselor at law, you need the breadth of experience. You need to have seen how things go wrong. You need to get people to trust you. And you do need to probe. You need to gain their trust so they will say, I went through this in my life. Well, I didn't know you had a health problem. People don't. Sometimes they're ashamed of problems they have.
Yeah.
They may be a recovering alcoholic or drugs or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the more they tell us, the more we can help them. AI is a tremendous tool.
Yep.
But it is just that, a tool. And, I had somebody say to me the other day, we were working on something, and we were talking about Claude, which is, it's remarkable if you've used it, right? But AI is about 8 years old. Would you trust your future to an 8-year-old?
It's true.
And the other thing with AI, maybe 5-6 months ago, I remember putting into, I think it was ChatGPT, trying to look myself up. It was really interesting because I got, 3 pages about me and how brilliant I am. However,
It's like, tell me more.
However, I know why I got it, because all it did was look at my website and whether I got an award here. And all AI knows from a data point of view is the data that's on the internet. It doesn't know my childhood background. It doesn't know where I worked at 18 years old. It doesn't know the pluses and minuses of my life. It doesn't know how we built the law firm. What it's picking up is data that is available on the internet, some of which was, I put my own bio in LinkedIn or whatever it might be. So it searches that. But I don't say where I grew up or what high school I went to or whether I got honors here. None of that stuff is necessarily in there. So I think there are severe limitations to AI. I do think AI will get better and better. But what AI is not a substitute for is judgment. So we fed a contract in the other day, just for example, and someone had sent us a contract. We had done all the analysis, and then we put it in, and I would say it came back maybe with about 80% of the stuff that we would calculate in, right? And maybe 20% of the stuff that we wouldn't. However, what AI doesn't tell you, and what it's not a substitute for, is judgment. Because just because here's 15 things that might be pressure points in this real estate contract does not mean that you should bring them up in a deal that you really want this house because it's the one house that you and your spouse really want. And is it worth changing 5 days to 10 days? So the untrained eye, who might not understand that you have no place else to move to, or you've sold your house already, or all the intervening factors, are not in AI. AI is a great tool, just the way a hammer is a tool. But somebody swings a hammer, and the more experienced the carpenter, the better, the straighter the nail's going to go in. And I would say that I think that's accurate about AI. I think AI is going to change the world. And it's going to displace people from work, so on and so forth. And there may be, if you're doing coding or data entry or something like that. But when it comes to human judgment, I think we're going to be many, many years before AI can remotely substitute for human judgment. I think it's going to be a generation because, again, the only data that is in there is the data that is in there. It's on the internet. It may look at 10 billion pieces of information. I don't know what the statistics are. But what it doesn't know is when I sit and say to you, David, you don't look great today. Is something up? My mom's sick. Right? So
I completely agree.
That's what's missing from AI as a data tool, as a drafting tool, but it is not a counselor at law.
100%.
So
I think back to what you both were saying earlier about really listening to the people that walk through those doors, right? ChatGPT is not going to do that.
It's more than listening. It's knowing how to peel back the layers of the onion.
Absolutely.
To get them to tell you what's really going on.
Yep.
And I think it's be a long time, although there was, I read an article right before Valentine's Day. There was some restaurant in Manhattan that said you could bring your AI companion and you could sit there for Valentine's Day. I mean, I hope we don't become that as a human race. And I'm not knocking people who might want to have that relationship, whatever.
Yep.
Although I think back to the movie Her, which didn't have the happiest ending if you ever saw it. But anyway,
here at iHeart, we have the same exact mindset. We just recently announced that we're guaranteed human. Anytime you turn into one of our radio stations across the entire country, you're going to hear a human being, and it's important to let them know. So we have the same mindset.
It's going to be the death of the
There's
entertainment
a place for
industry,
it,
right?
but there's also places that shouldn't be.
If we don't have the human experience in the stories that we tell in entertainment, then we're just going to have drivel.
Completely agree. So sticking on the human element, I know something that you also are very proud of is the numerous nonprofits, boards that you sit on and the different pro bono services you do. How has that community involvement really shaped your perspective, both as a lawyer and as a leader?
So Stephanie, my partner Anna Marie, Aaron, myself, we've all been an integral part of our community for years. And I think that it goes back to just the being human, to understanding that you don't just sit on a board to get prestige. You sit on a board because you find, Meals on Wheels, for example, right? I was on the board of Meals on Wheels, right? If you're blessed and you have food on your table and someone who visits you and whatever, you might not think anything of that. But when you sit on a board and you hear about what is involved in the human experience and to to make people feel that they have a place in the world. I don't think there's any higher calling than that. And I think, we try and carry that same philosophy in both directions. It's whether it's a not-for-profit or whether it's the law firm, I think it goes back to the same philosophy. If you don't inherently like people, care about people, understand the human condition, want to make a difference in the world. I went to a seminar years ago by this guy named Brendan Burchard, and he said, on your deathbed, nobody says, if I only had that Ferrari, right? They only ask themselves 3 questions. Did I live? Did I love? Did I matter? And I hope that we bring that. I know that Stefanie does because her clients love her. They love her.
That's awesome.
And my partner, Anna Marie, the clients love her. And Erin, my partner who handles the matrimonials, I'll say they like her because no, I'm kidding. I mean, she's a wonderful attorney and a very caring person, but they're going through hell, right? And they're going through hell. So
hard time.
Right. But the bottom line is it's not a popularity contest for us, but it is a contest to connect with the human experience. And I think if you haven't, and Stefanie's been on not-for-profit, but every one of us has been on boards, and we've met people, and we've heard about the difficulties that people have in their lives that most of us don't ever hear about.
Yeah.
Right? You don't think about, they're Meals on Wheels being an example. I was on that board years ago, but you may not understand that because you might have a family structure. It's like, well, I'm going to go visit mom on Tuesday and I'll bring her, right? But there are people who are homebound, elderly, can't get out, and have nobody visiting them because their kid lives in California, not New York or whatever. So they may get a call, but they're by themselves. They are not in a position to drive to a food store. So I think the answer to your question is just that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Stefanie, do you have any nonprofits or boards that you've worked with in the past that stand out?
So I started on boards with the Young Entrepreneurs Group of the Staten Island Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And that was really, really nice when I was first getting my feet wet in the community. And it was nice to be around people my age. Mm-hmm. And now I'm blessed to... I'm blessed to be on the board of the Staten Island Chamber of Commerce. So I've moved up now to where the adults sit. And I do enjoy hearing about individuals in the community and how other businesses are faring and getting that feedback from individuals. And I do take happiness in being able to help individuals that may sit on the board with me that have a quick question and want to pick my brain because, that's why we do it.
Absolutely. So sticking on that, your earlier board you mentioned, right? The younger entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
If someone is tuning in right now that might be a young entrepreneur or someone that might be considering the field of law, what advice would you give them? What advice would you wish someone had given you all those years back when you first started in it?
My advice to them would be do it. Many times when I was in law school, you would meet attorneys, or I would meet attorneys that would say, don't go do something else. Don't go to law school. Don't go do something else. And I wasn't swayed by that. And I fear that sometimes young people now may be. Mm-hmm. So if you have a passion for it, do it. Go get that Juris Doctorate. You don't necessarily have to practice, but you're still learning what you want to be learning and what your passion is. And then you can take it into whatever field you consider important to you.
Can I just say that?
I was going to say,
I
Gary,
think it
same
comes
question.
back to the DNA of our firm.
Yep.
And my amazing partner. I have amazing partners, right? And I'm not saying it's not like a public relations. I have 3 partners who go to sleep at night actually trying to achieve something for people. All those lawyers who say, don't practice law, don't do it, whatever, they probably went into they saw television, they thought it was going to be exciting to practice law. And it's not like that. The real practice of, again, what I refer to as middle-class law is about connecting with regular families. We're not talking corporate America or, representing General Motors or AIG. We're talking about people who are buying a house, buying a business, selling a business, have a problem with their landlord, need a divorce, need a will, need a trust, need an estate, need Medicare planning, all those types of things. So I think at the end of the day, Stefanie loves what she does. I love what I do. My other 2 partners love what we do because we actually like dealing with people.
Yeah.
It's difficult some days because we can't snap our fingers and achieve the things that people achieve in television law. But the reality is we are counselors at law.
Yep.
And if you allow us to befriend you, we will take the opportunity and help to guide you back to what you said earlier. The time to have the roadmap is before you go into the woods. I think that's the bottom line. We have experience. We want to share it.
Yep.
And in many cases, we can guide people to a much better result than they might have otherwise. And I think that's why we do what we do.
That's amazing. It's really important to, one, obviously have that passion and have that mindset, but also to have an amazing team around you. I think that having the right team, having the right players makes the world of the difference. So that's amazing to see. So we covered a lot, but I wanted to ask, is there anything new on the horizon, any new exciting developments or other things that you want to share?
Look, our firm is always growing, and I'll say stay tuned in that regard. We're working on a few things.
Love that.
But unfortunately, I can't be specific at the moment.
No
but
worries.
Let's just say we have a big plan for the next year. So we'll leave it at that. And I think that probably wraps it up for anything I could say about what's new and exciting.
Absolutely. And we'll be looking forward to hearing what that is once you're able to share. So before we conclude, is there anything one takeaway that you want anyone to tune in to know about yourself or about the firm?
I would like to instill in anyone who's listening that sometimes it may be a daunting thought to reach out to an attorney's office. You may have to build up the courage to even dial, depending on what your problem is. And I would ask you to just do it. Give us a call. Sit with us. Give me an hour, and I'll give you a cup of coffee and see how you feel. Let us have the opportunity to help you with whatever problem that you're having. And hopefully we would be able to go down whatever journey it is that you're going to go through. But don't hesitate, because as I say to clients, we're not going anywhere. We're here, okay? We're here for you, and we want to be there for you. So don't hesitate.
Well, firstly, I didn't know Stephanie was giving away free coffee. As a managing partner, I think I have to get that under control. But no, I think that pretty much what we've said in the past. We are here to connect with people. We can't solve everything. It's not television. It doesn't always have an easy path, but it is a finite process. No matter goes on forever, and our firm's philosophy, there was a book I read called Fanocracy.
Sure.
I forgot the name of the author, but the main takeaway from the book was if you want to build your business, create raving fans. And I saw him speak, and then I read the book, and I thought, that's really it, right? So we have a sign over the area where all the lawyers and staff works that just says create raving fans. And that is our mission statement. And I tell everybody, if somebody writes a positive Google review or sends a basket of fruit to the office or even a thank you note, you made my day. That's what we want. That's as real as it gets, because we're going to make a living. We're going to make money. This is what we do for a living. Like, this is what you do for a living. We're all in business. But Richard Branson wrote a book years ago called Screw Business as Usual, and it affected my thinking for a really long time, because what he postulated in that book was, we're all in business to make money, but while you're at it, why not try and do something positive for the world? And so from my perspective, and I hope I've put that entrepreneur in the firm, and I have the most wonderful partners. It's just the DNA of our culture. I think we're all here to try and make a positive difference. And I think that may not be how people perceive. Stephanie talked about lawyers, and you're afraid to make a call because they're intimidated. And we don't want to be seen that way. We want to be seen as an extension of your family. We want to give you a better life, whatever your problem is. We can't just snap our fingers and solve it, but we hope that in the end, that whatever your problem is, we've taken some weight off your shoulders, a rebirth. What you do with it after that, right? So it is yours after that. I mean, if you're getting a divorce, it seems a painful process, but many people go on to have a second half of their life that's very happy. So maybe your best chapter hasn't been written yet for many people. And I think that's what I would like the takeaway to be. I think your best chapter hasn't been written yet for many people, and we hope to help you write that chapter.
That's great advice. Gary, Stephanie, thank you both for being here today. I really appreciate you both sharing your background, advice, and more about, of course, Angiuli Gentile and the overall firm. You guys are doing great work, and I'm looking to continue to watch you guys and admire the work you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Appreciate
David. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning into this week's edition of CEOs You Should Know.